Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. Now, my guest this evening is me. Yes, you're landing with me this evening. And it's very, very strange because I can see how many people are online and the figures are going up and down like a tart's drawers. So I don't know what PukeTube are up to, but I've noticed that looking back on past shows, you look one week and the figures are also going up and down on there as well. So I don't know what they're up to. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. This is a packed show, an exciting show, but there's a reason this week I'm wearing a black tie, and it's in memory of somebody. Her name, I believe it's Polly, but Kim will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. And it's a very sad story in a way. As you know, I go to Stand in the Park on Sundays, and Town Crier she used to take his dog for a walk. It's a fantastic dog. He's a little tiny dog. It's about 13 years of age, and it's got Queen Anne legs. His sort of legs go out, and it really lovely. And she was a lovely woman, Polly, and she was a little bit eccentric, shall we say. I never actually got to speak to her, and but lots of people did. And I wish I had a conversation with her, but I never did. But I think I should respect her, because what's actually happened is she had mental health issues, and I've got to be very careful what I say now because of PukeTube censorship. So shall we say she was put into a place and they wouldn't let her out until, if you get what I mean, and she was against it. And she was walking down the road the other week and just collapsed with a heart attack. So it's very sad. So I thought I'd show a little bit of respect for Polly, even though I didn't really know her that well. But I think Kim in chat will be able to correct me. I think her name was Polly. But let's have a quick look in chat, because tonight we've got a lot of exciting things going on. We've got Skippy, the bush kangaroo, a little known film of his relative. Sorry, her relative. It wasn't a he, it was a she, actually. And I don't think it was a kangaroo, it was a wallaby, actually. And then we've got the Agony Art Festival. Yeah, I bet you're wondering what that is. But let's go into chat first of all. So let's have a quick look. So who have we got? Hello, it's Ancient Ruby. Hello, Ancient Ruby. Well, I've got a big thank you for Ancient Ruby, because she kindly bought my dad's book, and she put some absolutely touching words to it. To the, you know, she saw when she bought the book, she wrote some very touching words, and when she received the book, I actually signed it, even though I wasn't the author. It was the dad that signed it. She also said some very touching words. So thank you very much, Ancient Ruby. And if you would like to, where are we? If you want to find out about my father's book, and I can't damn well find it on here now. Where's it gone? Because I'm on my own tonight, you see. I'm going to do all this. Where are we? It's here somewhere. Well, if you go on to FockhamHallRadio.com, you'll see a link to it, and it's actually warveteran.co.uk. So it's all the W's, warveteran.co.uk. That's where you'll find details of both my dad's books. He wrote 2 books, and I'm sure you'll find it very interesting because they're very controversial, and that's why authors wouldn't touch it. So there we go, or touch them rather. So let's go back into chat again. And a big bit of a plug there, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, by the way, we've got adverts as well. Yeah. So here we go. So we're all full of it tonight. And oh, it is Kim. Oh, hello. We got Kim Oldsworth. Hello, hello, Kim. Sorry, Kath. I'm getting all muddled up. See, I'm getting my worms in a mucking fuddle tonight. Here we go. And hi, everyone. Yes, it's Polly. Yes, I have got it wrong. Right. See, I told you I'm getting my worms in a mucking fuddle. So there we go. And we've got Ancient Ruby. Sorry to hear that. Oh, that's very, very kind. Thank you. And this is Joe Weeks. Hello, Joe. And then we've got Kim again. She was a gentle soul. Yes, she was. And actually, I quite like eccentrics. I get on well with them. And she sort of, she had very flamboyant, I suppose. She looked a bit like a hippie, you know, the sort of hippies of the 60s. Lovely person. And she sort of oozed kindness and niceness. And I think she always had a smile on her face. And it's the same, as I said, it's a shame I never got to talk to her. But what is it that that comedian once said who committed suicide? Well, they say committed suicide. Who was it? Was it Malcolm Windy? Nanu Nanu? I can never remember his name. And I'm sure someone's going to come up in chat with it. And he once said, if you've gone through any trauma, whether it's psychological or physical, you'll try and make the world a happier place. And I think that's very, very true. So she tried to make the world a happier place. So there we go. And then we've got some spread lies, other know the truth, who is who. Well, I think we will see more of that in the very near future. Sadly, yes, I'm inclined to agree with you. Yes, I'm sure we will. It's going to be very, very sad. And then we've got I won't read it out, but thanks, Ancient Ruby. That's very, very kind. That's you know, that really is. Thank you. And now you're probably wondering, oh, hang on, I've got a good reminder here. Thumbs up for the show, everyone. Easy to get. Yeah, if you could, you know, put the old thumbs up and ding the reminder bell, and also subscribe as well. It costs nothing. It's free of charge. So, you know, I mean, could pay me a few bob if you wanted to, but and of course, you know, the Fockham Hall currency now, Deb's named it Fock Bobs. So that's pretty good, isn't it? So we've got our own currency. Hello, hello, hello. It's Town Crier. Hello, evening, everyone. And hope you're okay. And there we are. And where we got here? We got that was the name of the comedian, Robin Williams. You know, Kim, you could be my prompt each week. Well, you are my prompt each week because you've got a good memory for names. I haven't. And also get names back to front as well. Right, here we go. And we've got here Paul Green. Definitely a connection to what you indicated, Chris. They are pushing the... Yes. I'm ever sorry I can't read them out fully, these, because if I get one more strike, bang, I'm off of YouTube. I think I'll get a lifetime ban, actually, which is quite nice of them. So that's why I'm being very careful. And I'm doing, shall we say, Fluffy Bunny and tap dancing hamster shows. Right, now, what should we start off with? Shall we start? I mean, I'm going to talk about Edward Bernays and propaganda and that type of thing. But before we get into the heavy stuff, I beg your pardon. What's this? Do I really? How nice. Before I get into the heavy stuff, shall it be Skippy? Or shall it be the Agony Festival? So, anyway, what do you think? I think we'll go with Skippy, shall we? This is a little known film that his relative did that people don't know about. So, there you go. Here it comes.
Diddly dum, be dum, diddly dum, dee 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 dum. Ooh, oh, oh, dribbles, dribbles. Dribbles, the incontinent kangaroo. Dribbles, dribbles, a twat through and through. So what are you up to today, Dribbles? Well, I'm going to piss on the shoes of this twat in a uniform. Bleeding plonker. Yes, I think he's got piss all down the front of his shoes, actually. Yeah, don't worry, soon sort that bastard out.
I thought you might like that. Right. So on with the show. Now we're starting with propaganda. What is it? How? And you notice by the intro, it showed Edward Bernays. Now, Edward Bernays is known as the sort of father of propaganda because that word was actually used until about the 1930s when it fell out of favour. And Edward Bernays changed it to public relations. Well, they're there. See. Now, who is this chap, Eric? Edward Bernays. Well, you could always Google him, and there's loads and loads of films about him. So I decided not to actually focus too much on him, but he was the propaganda advisor to the American government during the First World War. And he, he actually got the, shall we say, the American public on the side of going to war because America wanted to keep out of World War One. But as we well know, there was a lot of connivings and sinking of a ship, and America came into it because Germany was actually winning World War One, and if it wasn't for American industrial might, then they would have won. And it probably wouldn't have made much difference to the United Kingdom because they would have had to invade across the Channel, and Britain had a navy that was so huge that would have blown anything out of the water at that time. So that's basically it. But Edward Bernays, he was responsible for a lot of things. Like, for example, in the 1920s and 30s, people bought a product because of its reliability, and things were sold on how long they would last, their reliability, and not necessarily. It wasn't. It was because it was necessary. So, for example, if you bought a Model T Ford, it would be sold on its reliability, its serviceability, and how good a machine it was. But Edward Bernays changed that to changing a model every year and having total where you'd actually discontinue things for the sake of discontinuing things, and things would become outdated very, very quickly. So you bought something to be part of a fashion. So, for example, cars were, I wouldn't say they were less reliable, but they built them to only last a shorter period of time. And of course, in the 50s and 60s and so on until today, things weren't built to last, thanks to Edward Bernays, because he realised that manufacturers, could sell more products and make more money. So it's all to do with money. So all this eco crap that people are coming out with, all they've got to do is look back to the 1920s, where people bought things because they needed them, not because it was a kind of I want situation. And things were very, shall we say, ecological in those days. Now, coming forward a bit more, Edward Bernays lived to a ripe old age. And of course, the way I look on it, public relations, and I know I'm going to upset a lot of people now, is professional liars. That's the way I look on it. Because governments and industry are now building contractors, they hire public relations advisors, and I've got a lot to say about what's happening with mass buildings in the United Kingdom due to this massive amount of building that's going on, and what's happening in councils, and what I believe is a lot of corruption. So I'll be going on to that a little bit later. But the word I was looking for is planned obsolescence. That's what Edward Bernays introduced, planned obsolescence. So you would actually make things obsolescent for the sake of being obsolescent, and that's it. And when you look at cars, I think they got to their peak in the 1980s, and then suddenly they put loads of electronics in them, and the amount of people I know that have the most ridiculous things go wrong, They can't fix it themselves, so they have to go to a garage, and they're charged a fortune for some bozo to actually plug a computer into their car to find out what's wrong. And it's the most, they're over technical. How comes you could get in a car in the 1980s and drive and drive and drive and drive and drive, and if something went wrong, you could probably fix it yourself. Yet now you can't fix it yourself. And I mean, the worst things I've heard is these devices where they tell you the pressure of your tyres whilst you're in your car. Well, when you have a tyre change, if they hit one of the components, then you have to have that completely changed, and it costs a fortune. Well, why can't you just look around your tyres and say, yeah, that looks a bit low, and pump it up? I mean, that's what I do now. So, but you know, that's life. Now, you're thinking, propaganda, what's that got to do with a chap called Mahatma Gandhi? Well, it has a lot to do with Mahatma Gandhi, because I'm actually going to put a theory forward, and I do hope there's some Indian people watching this show, because I've worked with a lot of Indians and made good friends with them. I've always got on well with Indians. I don't know quite why. It's just they tend to have a good sense of humour, and I don't know, probably got a similar sort of personality. I don't know. And regarding Gandhi, I've heard two different views. Either they think he was marvellous, or they think he was bloody awful. Now, I know that he didn't like Africans, and he was quite racially discriminating against them. But there's something very, very strange about the propaganda that was used about him, and the propaganda that was, well, I linked Gandhi with what happened after the First World War. Now, before I go into that, I'll have another quick look in chat, and also I'll play one of my adverts, one of the serious adverts. Now, let's have a look here. We've got Ancient Ruby. Oh, hang on, here we go. It says, Ancient Ruby, agree, and now nothing lasts past 2 years now, if I'm lucky. Yeah, I agree with you there. Do you know, I bought one of these hot air fryers, you know, the type of things that give your fish and chips a blowjob, you know. Sorry, I mean, you know, they put warm air over your fish and chips, and sorry, and I bought one a couple of years ago, and all the bloody I don't like non-stick, but all the bloody non-stick stuff seems to be coming off, and the dials at the front where you see, you know, the timer, that's all worn off. So I've had to sort of mark it all in by hand. It's crap, absolute crap. I also bought one of these clamshell type cookers, little mini cooker things. You know, the type of thing where you open it up, I think they, and then you can make an omelette in it. And I thought, that's just handy. I make a Yorkshire pudding. And it was made by a firm beginning with T and ending with R. And they used to have a very good name, but I don't think they have anymore. And what happened is, and my air fryer is made by them. Anyway, I bought this clamshell type cooker thing, and 9 months down the line, the bloody thing blew up. Yeah, the firework display in my kitchen just went boom. So I noticed it was a design fault. So I contacted the company and told them about the design fault. They didn't want to know. Couldn't give a shit. So I thought, sod that. So yes, it was say, I think you guessed who it is by now, but I better not say it just in case there's some legal reasons. Now, you've got some interesting one here. It says, some spread lies, others know the truth. Who is who? Everything is classed as white goods. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yes. And I have my eyes, this is Ancient Ruby, I have my eyes wide open, and everything is or is becoming completely corrupted, and make sure goods cannot be mended. That's right. Yes, you can't mend. I mean, this bloody cooker thing, I undid it, and I thought, oh, you know, looks like the wire is the wire was faulty. It was all the outer casing was rubber, and it was all coming off in your hands because it was cheap wiring. And I thought, oh, it's probably a short. when I opened it up, I realised how crap the thing was built. Terrible thing it is. Now, Kate Holdsworth says they love making stuff obsolete. Yeah, you're spot on there. Everything is damn obsolete now. Now, hello, we got Malevolence. And guess who's there? It's Mahatma Gandhi with a gun in front of me. Son of a crown, Lipspittle took silk in a temple, East India Company's wet dream. Gandhi was a crown agent. I think you got there before I had, mate. Now we got Hatchie. Bernaise sounds like the type of sauce one might find in the back of a magazine for cooking. Chris, they've been dumbing us down since the Second World War. Crazy world. You're spot on there, mate. I think it's since the end of the First World War in many ways. So I'll come back into what I was saying. Now, at the end of the First World War, I'm going to upset a lot of people now. They were in a situation similar to what we're in now, because there was a lot that Britain was on the, shall we say, tip of a revolution, almost on the point of a revolution. I mentioned this when John Hamer was on the show last couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that in Liverpool they actually sent the gunboats in and they turned the guns round, but they didn't fire. I thought they did, but they didn't fire at the crowd. But it was a kind of threatening method to stop riots, because people were rioting up and down the country after the First World War because the people that came back from the front realised they'd been conned. And of course, in those days, they knew about usury much more than people do now. If you go up to somebody in the street and say, do you know what usury is? They say, do you need washing powder? Oh, they wouldn't know. And it's a surprising amount of people that don't know what it is. But that is what is actually ruling us. Usury scammers. And governments are there to rob you and I and thieve off of you to pay off a never-ending debt that doesn't exist. And that's basically what it's all about. And civil servants run countries. But going back to the First World War, after the First World War, what happened is there was lots of militant organisations. And remember, before 1920, the 1920 Firearms Act, you could buy guns in this country over the table in much the same way as some states in the United States, because you could actually have a firearm. And they realised, the government, they were terrified that there was all these fit young men, well, they weren't that fit when they came back from the front, but shall we say well-trained young men that knew how to use firearms, and they could buy them over the table. So they hurriedly rushed through the 1920 Firearms Act, which stopped that. And then what happened, you had these militant organisations that were infiltrated, and I've said this many times before, by the secret services. And what they did, they dished the dirt. And like today, we have people saying, this person's a shill and that person's a shill. And if you go onto Facebook and places like that, you find loads of people saying, oh, this person's a shill, that person's a shill. I mean, the funniest one I ever saw was somebody accused Dr. Coleman. Now, I don't know what I do. I believe that if someone is a shill, they'll expose themselves to you. You don't have to have somebody to tell you. And somebody had actually freeze-framed his videos, and they said, well, this is a Masonic symbol, and that's a Masonic symbol. Well, so he must be a shill. Well, would somebody do Masonic symbols all the way through a video? And I mean, they could probably get this, what I'm doing here, and if I sort of scratch my nose or scratch my arse or something, they'd say, oh, that's a Masonic signal or something. So it was nonsense. But a lot of these people that say they're calling out shills are actually funded, I believe, by the government, because when they start their websites up, they start off and they have absolutely thousands of followers. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't start like that. You start off in a small one, you gradually build up your audience. I mean, I've worked hard to build the audience up here, and you don't start with thousands. It just doesn't work like that. And so what's happening now with people saying they're exposing shills happened after the First World War. Nothing's new. History repeats itself. So well-meaning people that were trying to changed things for the better, they were they were actually dragged through the mud, and the Secret Service infiltrated these organisations and destroyed them from within. And I remember when I was a kid, amongst the old First World War veterans, they used to mention different names, but as a kid, you don't take notes. I wish I would have done. And they said, "Oh, it's a shame what happened with him and what happened with there," but they knew what had actually happened. And I think that the big problem is what they had after the First World War is a spiritual awakening. So you've got a spiritual awakening, and peace and love will prevail after this terrible war. And who masterminded the peace and love and spiritual awakening? The Secret Service. Why? To pacify people down. So that is the sort of propaganda then. So I've touched slightly on Edward Bernays. I've talked about the propaganda then. Now you're going to think, what the bloody hell's that got to do with Gandhi? Well, stay tuned, because after the break I will go into that. But first I'll have a quick look in chat, because it's quite lively tonight in chat. Chris, you're a shot. Oh, yeah, I knew that all the way along. Yeah. What's this? Tell cry again. Bill of Rights, 1688-89. The right to bear arms. Yeah, here's my arms. To defend yourself, still law today. That's right. That's right. Because if this doesn't get me booted off YouTube, I don't know what will. I've got to be careful here. Did you know the royals are fake? Yes, they are fake. Because they were reintroduced after Oliver Cromwell cut the head off of one. But they were not. They were, shall we say, the choosing of a minority of people that we're not allowed to criticise. That's as far as I go with that one. This is Ancient Ruby again. Confuse the people with lies and truth mixed, and no one knows anything anymore. All tactics. This is why it is important to keep your gut feelings close. Body language also tells all. Very true. And I've found that the older I get, the more I tune into my gut feeling, because when you're young, you ignore it because you've been conditioned at school to ignore it. Sit up straight, look to the front, do this. And at school, I was always gazing out the window because I found it more interesting than sitting there having information blasted into your brain, because some people can have that. I can't, because, you might not be in the right mood. And my brain doesn't work like that, because I like to sort of look around and be a bit creative, Now we've got here, is a classic promoted by the, yes, thanks, Kath. I hope you don't mind. I'm not reading it out in full, because I've got to be so careful what I say now. Yes, you're quite right there. Yes. And we've got here, baffle them with bullshit. Anyway, what should we have? Do you want the fun adverts? Hang on a minute. What we got here? We've got Town Cry. Miles from Waltham Abbey, health foods and sister, chopped. Oh, that's right. Miles from Waltham Abbey, health food and sister, chopped Charles I's head off. Bloody hell, I won't go back there again. Miles is the proprietor of Abbey Health Foods. And if you want to know about Abbey Health Foods, this is a perfect time to put an advert on. So here it comes, if I can find a bloody thing. Where is it? See, I'll be doing this while someone will be talking. Here it is. So Abbey Health Foods. There's no sound with it. What about this one? No sounds with that either. Oh, hang on. I got the wrong one. Here it is. Come to Abbey Health Foods for competitively priced vitamins, minerals, etc., plus free advice. And remember, free delivery within 6 feet of the Abbey Health Food counter, subject to availability, of course. Vitamins and minerals can be posted throughout the United Kingdom, post-free, with orders over £35, subject to change, of course. Miles, the proprietor, is a qualified nutritionist, herbalist,
and acupuncturist. The main questions regarding acupuncture is, do you feel a prick? Well, I guess you may feel a little stupid. When phoning Abbey Health Foods, please remember to tell them you saw their advert on this show. So telephone 01992 650014. That's 01992 650014.
And if you see Miles, don't mention anything about his ancestor cutting Charles's head off, because he might get a bit upset about it. Might be a bit cut up about it. But as you see, there's some more adverts coming up, and there's going to be one for the yoga as well, who kindly made a contribution, which is, you see the details below. They only bought me a coffee, 2 coffees to be precise, very kind of them. And so if you advertise and you get a good response, and there's people falling over themselves responding to the advert, you might want to make a little contribution. And that's the way I feel that's a fair way of doing things, and that goes towards the funds for this show. So there we go. Now, that's a bit serious. So do you want to see the Agony Aunt show yet? The festival? Anybody? Let's have a look back in chat. Let's have a look. That's right. I haven't forgot about Mahatma Gandhi, because you heard of Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, he was the cloakroom attendant. It was his brother. So there we go. Now it says here, what's it now? We've got Haji. We've been getting screwed since Prince Albert. Who won for a good wife? Who I don't get that, for a good wife, Vicky. It's all in. Oh yes. He was married to Queen Victoria. Yes, whose father was the footman. Seriously, it's all in the back of Screwfix Mag. Oh bloody hell! You don't get over that gag, Chris. I wish you'd read it before sending it. It's good fun. He's named after him. What, Miles? Yeah, because his surname's Fleetwood, isn't it? I thought he was named after Fleetwood Mac, the group. Well, there you are. So you learn something every day. Now it says, they fear, this is Angela Dempsey, they fear those with knowledge and control, those that don't. Yes, very, very good point there. Now, got Kim. Hello, Kim. Is that true, Town Crier? Yes, it is. Right. Now, what we will do is, hang on, we got the answer from Town Crier. It is Kim. Yes, Cromwell shafted him after he did it. Yeah, he's. Let's put it this way. If you're a woman and dated Cromwell, he wasn't the type of bloke to bring home to your mum. You know, he was. He's an arsehole, wasn't he? He was the first sort of communist, really, wasn't he? I suppose, in many ways, you know. But because you know that he reintroduced usury into the United Kingdom, because what was his name? So Edward I Longshanks, about 300 years prior to Cromwell, he booted out all the usury scammers and the coin clippers and all that, and he said, if I can be polite about it, go forth and multiply, or between you and I, fuck off. And he booted out all the people we're not allowed to criticise, you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And and what happened is 300 years later, Cromwell needed money for his new model army. So he went to the banksters. No, I didn't say wankers, I said banksters in the Netherlands. And they said, yes, you can have all the dosh, mate. Not exactly in those words, providing that when you win, we come back and you open a Bank of England that we run, and you reintroduce usury. And that's exactly what happened. And you reintroduce usury, thus ensuring that future generations will always be up to their neck in debt. What a lovely man, eh? Yes, so that's it. And I could say more, but I don't really want to be banned from here, you see, because you get sort of nasty fingers pointed at you. But all I can say is I've got nothing against anybody, but all I am against is psychopaths of a certain belief, religion, or whatever you want to call it, who have shafted us financially for thousands of years. But it's the psychopaths I'm talking about, not other people. And there's some very nice people of that persuasion, but not the psychopaths. And I think that's our main enemy. And people take their eye off who the enemy really is, because it is the psychopaths. But that is actually true. And then I think it was 1690 something, 2, 3, 4. I always get this wrong. The Bank of England was set up, and as the late great Dave Starbuck said, that it shouldn't have been called the Bank of England. It should have been the Bank of you know who's. So there we go, a bit of rhyming slang there. What's this? There's something in there. It's very difficult when you do this on your own, because you've got to keep one eye in chat and one eye on the screen, and your thoughts, what you're going to say next. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. So if I'm the bit. So now, Haji, Ancient Ruby, ask Chris to send his mag to you. Butterfly nuts on the hard wall are handy. Oh yeah, he likes that joke about I sent off to a dating agency called Screwfix, and they sent their mag through, and all it was hammers and nails and things like that. So that's a sort of useless dating agency, isn't it? You know, being it's Valentine's Day, you know. So I hope you don't make that mistake. So those of you that are looking for love, don't send to Screwfix by mistake, because all you're going to get is a magazine full of drills and nuts and bolts and things. So there we go. Oh, hang on, this is a beauty here. Cromwell, last incarnation of Tony Blair. Yeah. Well, he had his headquarters, didn't he, at Saffron Walden, and he was quite big around this sort of area, you know. And we got here Louise Wilcox. Hello, Louise. Cromwell and Thomas à Becket, both a pair of assholes that wanted to benefit themselves. Typical aristocracy, both then and now. Yes, because Cromwell banned Christmas, but he celebrated it with his family, didn't he? So, what a bastard. And what we got there? And I think that Cedars Park has got quite a bit of history surrounding it. Town Crier will be able to fill me in on that. Oi, is there any history about Cromwell in Cedars Park? You know, have you found his boot there or something, you know? Anyway, I'll have to get my thoughts together for the next part, because it's very, very difficult, this is. So what I'll do, would you like to see the Agony Art Festival? Details about it. So here it comes, the Agony Art Festival. Who can forget it? You know, do you remember Clarina? Will you do that for me, dear? Well, they had a festival. You don't realise that. So here it is.
Hello. Who can forget the 1992 Agony Art Festival, especially when it reached its climax, where people were not only talking about their naughty bits, but there was famous performing artists there with their beautiful LP records, which you can now buy and remember that golden year. Yes, we had this fantastic artist there, which you can now buy his record. And of course, people that liked playing with themselves. I mean, playing on the different instruments, of course. And of course, we must never forget, yes, these incredible performances. So, relive those days of the Agony Art Festival.
Do you like that? Next week we've got the Anorak convention. Yeah, I'll be advertising that as well. Pretty good, isn't it? All these adverts. So I was going to go on about Gandhi, the link between Gandhi. Now, when you think about it, recapping, think about this carefully. After the First World War, Sorry, it sounded like something out of, do you remember Jack and Ori, you know? Are you sitting comfortably, children? Now I'll begin. Now, what happened after the First World War, to recap, we had a spiritual awakening and peace and love. You know, it's peace all over you. And sometimes it was peace on and sometimes it was peace off. Sorry, I put those ones in. And who was behind this? Secret Service. Because whilst people are full of peace and love, they're not thinking about revolution, are they? Now, let's come forward a bit. And we've got Mahatma Gandhi. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Mahatma Gandhi. He was born on October the 2nd, 1869. And he croaked it. Well, he didn't actually croak it. He got assassinated on the 30th of January, 1948. Now, he was, he came to London and he was a, come on, brain, think. I think he was a barrister and he got called to the bar. I don't know, did he want to get pissed or something? I don't know, you get called to the bar. But for being in the legal profession, shall we say, you had to be possibly a member of the... Now, I've looked up, I'm talking about Freemasons, and I can't find anywhere where it says that he was a Freemason. So I don't know. So we'll leave that piece out. But he came to London at the age of 18 to study law, and he left a wife and his mother and family in India to come here because he came from quite a rich family. And he studied here, so he was in with the establishment. And how did he afford to get here? Now, apparently he saved his money, blah, 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 but okay. Now, what happened is, as you go on, he wanted the British out of India. So he started off this peaceful protest idea where you have civil disobedience. Now, there was an actual incident, I think it was 1932, and I'm sure people in chat will tell me a little bit more, where British soldiers apparently fired on an innocent crowd, killing women and children. Now that's how it's depicted in the film Gandhi. But I worked with a chap whose uncle was in the British Army and was actually at that incident. And his version of events was very different, because apparently the crowd were coming towards this garrison of soldiers with machetes, knives, and they were lobbing all manner of things, stones and everything, at the soldiers. And they shouted, the commander sort of shouted over a megaphone, well, they didn't have electric ones then, but, you know, over a sort of a speaker, please get back. They told them to get back, and they fired a shot over their heads. It was a warning shot, but that didn't stop them, and that made them come forward even more. And they were terrified, these soldiers. And at the very last moment, they opened fire to protect themselves. Now, that is the version that I heard from a chap that I worked with, his uncle. Now, whether that's true or not, I do not know. I've only heard it from one person. I'd like to hear it from two separate people. So if anybody knows anything more about that, I'd like to find out more. But I don't say that. Now, when you see it in the film, we know there's a lot of fantasy in the film Gandhi that was made by Lovey Deary. And this brings me on to another set of situations. Lovey Deary, that's Attenborough. I think that's Dickie Attenborough. You know, the one that said hello dearie and all that sort of stuff. He was well in with the establishment as well. He was well in with the royals, because when Diana died, he said, I'll never forget it, he said, I will try and help her boys. And I'm sure, you know, because he knew them on first name terms, allegedly. So who knows? But I once saw a film about the making the film Gandhi, and it really made me laugh, because there was the funeral scene, and they had this sort of obviously fake model of Gandhi with all the, you know, funeral pyre, and there's all these Indians there as extras, and some bright spark thought it's a very good idea to sell ice creams. So it's Lovey Deary saying, okay, action, you see an ice cream van going down the crowd. So there's all these people eating ice creams because I didn't quite know what they were there for. And so they had to wait until they ate their ice creams, and they're shouting out, look miserable, because there's people laughing and joking and cracking gags. So that was a bit of a laugh. But anyway, putting that aside, Gandhi started this peaceful protest. Now, it all sounds very moral, it all sounds very nice, but I think it's linked in to what the Secret Service were doing after the First World War, this peace and love type thing. And remember, when the British Legion was set up, and it became the Royal British Legion in 1971, but it was set up in 1921, it told people what they want to hear. And because the militant organisations have been destroyed from within, the veterans were, most of them, not all of them, were sucked in by this lure of this new organisation which was going to speak to them. But in my view, I believe that organisation was just a mouthpiece for the government, because what happened is they projected an image of veterans that best suits the government, and it actually got the government off the hook from paying pensions and things like that, because the British Legion were very quiet about the government-directed pensions fraud after the war that went on for many, many years, where genuine veterans were denied their pensions and given all manner of excuses to save the government money. So, the British Legion will help veterans, yes, to fill up forms and things like that. That is all within the government criteria. But if they were really supporting veterans, they would have said, right, we're going to bring London to a halt until UFM will do something to the government. They're not. Because if you go onto the government website, there's a link to the British Legion. So how independent do you think they are? Makes you think, doesn't it? Don't just take my word for it. Go on to the government website and you'll see the link there. So, that's what it's all about. But what gets me back to Gandhi, now he was assassinated in 1948. It's, to me, British government wanted to get out of India. How would they actually get out of India? Why not try a psyops at the same time? Because let's face it, they couldn't just leave India and just say, oh, you're having it, or anything like that. So they might as well turn it into a good idea, and that is to promote this peaceful demonstration. Well, that's all very well, and I'm all for love and peace, but in some situations, when you're dealing with psychopaths, love and peace is more like trying to destroy a Panzer tank with a feather duster, because you're not going to get anywhere. Now, this is some suspicious things. Now, I know that link, and I haven't really got any meat on the bone that it was a psyop, but there's pictures like that give me suspicious, make me suspicious. That is actually Mountbatten, and he's standing next to Mountbatten and Mountbatten's wife, and that is Mahatma Gandhi in the centre. So he was well in with the establishment, and in the 1930s he came over to see the government of that day. So it's something weird going on there, because Gandhi wasn't a politician, but to me it absolutely stinks of a psyop. And I just wonder what your views are of this. And again, I'd especially like to hear the views of people that may be of Indian origin. It would be very interesting. So that's my party piece for today. And you can look up about Gandhi. We've all seen the film, and I haven't said too much about Edward Bernays because, again, there's so many films on YouTube about the bastard. And my view is he's probably looking up from hell now and thinking, yes, just what I wanted. So let's go back into chat again, what we got here. And, now this is interesting. Oswald Mosley, 22nd, that was, he was the head of British fascists, I hasten to add, in the 1930s. And he was actually imprisoned during the war. Great-grandson of Edward the 136th, great-grandson of Carl Wiggett. Oh, you know your stuff, Mahatma Levenance. Charlemagne 64th of Arius, Colpruius Piso, 107th great-grandson of Ramesses II, 112th great-grandson of, my word, Amahotep, can't pronounce that, the third. You certainly know your stuff. Yes, Oswald Mosley, yes, very interesting character. Now, protests today on news only ever show peaceful protesters as violent because they throw in actors to do it, yet most are peaceful. Yes, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I went, when I was studying architecture, there was a chap there, my good friends with. He was West Indian origin, and his grandfather came over after the First World War. His father was born here, and he was actually a navigator in the RAF during the war, one of very few West Indians. And well, he wasn't a West Indian then, he's English. And then he was born in England, and he was one of the most patriotic men you could ever wish to meet. And he actually, this was in the 70s, I'm showing my age now, I've probably told you this before, he was a member of the National Front. And when he said it, we all started laughing because we thought he was joking. And it was one lunch here, we was all sitting around having our dinner. He said, I'm a member of the National Front. Yeah. He said, no. And he was serious. And he said that the image that was given was of boot boys and skinheads and all this. And he said when he went there, it's all full of people with suits, all very politely spoken, who treated him as an honoured guest. And he said there was a couple of Indian people there, and I think it was an African bloke there. And he said there were people of African origin, obviously. And he said they were very polite. And he said he only had one incident when some boot boys came in, and the thugs, and went up to him. And of course, the people in the suits sorted them out because they were, in his own words, police infiltrators. So that's interesting because these infiltrators, they're paid to infiltrate, to project the image that the government wants of these people, which is very, very different. So they're that's where you get propaganda come in. They're image makers. And Kim has said, they show rent-a-crowd. That's right. They are rent-a-crowds. And when you look at, well, I don't look at it, but when I used to look at the BBC when I had the telly, it made me sick because all it was a pantomime of lies. That's all it is. And I've noticed during, again, I'll be very careful what I say, when they show protests, they usually go around side streets. There might be a few, might be a bloke having a jimmy up the wall somewhere, and, a couple of people looking for the nearest burger bar or whatever, and to make it look as if there's just very few people there. Again, all lies. Hello, we got here the Lul's boat. Good evening. I like that image you got on that screen. That was from Carry On Screaming, wasn't it? That was made in 1966, if I remember rightly. So there we go. I remember boring things like that. And it starred Harry H. Corbett. And do you know what the H stood for in his name? Anything. Because there was a Harry Corbett who was used to act with his hand up a glove puppet's arse, and that was Sooty. It was Harry Corbett and Sooty. And when Harry Corbett started acting, not him, he put an H in it, so his name was different. So there we go, a little bit of trivia there. Buy the woman you love and watch her eating the crumbliest chocolate Cadbury's can do. Yeah, I remember that. And yeah, she with a flake, wasn't it? Tastes like chocolate never tasted before. Sounds smutty today. That was the sales angle back then. Yes. She's obviously a woman that thought that should I say this? No. I think I'd definitely get kicked off for that. That a really filthy joke there, but I'm sorry, I can't say it. I don't think I'd get away with it. From Mosley to Hotep in one sentence. Impressive. Yes, here we go. There we got here. Ancient Ruby, National Front were well educated, yet they were racist. Well, that's what we're told, that we're racist. You see, again, I always now want to find out for myself, because what we're told on the media is pack of bloody lies. It's propaganda. Now, going further with this propaganda situation, if you live in the United Kingdom, and for most places in the world for that matter, have you noticed a heck of a lot of building going on? Now, what's happening now, and I can tell you this is what happened around where I live. There was, it's very rural where I am, or it was, and as we speak, there's a field almost adjacent to my house, which is full of bulldozers and JCBs and whatever, and diggers, and it's like living on a building site, the noise they're making. They're going to stick, I think it's 62 houses on this site. Now, what happened is, for years, developers wanted to develop this around here, all the fields and that, and they tried and tried and tried, and there was massive opposition, because this is supposed to be, it was green, what known as green belt. And what they did, for example, the village adjacent to where I live had a preservation order on it, so they're not allowed to build any housing around this village. Now, when I first moved into my house, I lived at one location, and I went to bed Sunday night, and I woke up Monday morning in a different location, even though I hadn't moved, because what the council did, because they couldn't build in this particular location adjacent to where I live, they'd actually moved the boundary overnight so that it came into Cheshunt, and of course they could build because it wasn't a preservation area. And that's what my council gets up to. And I believe it, well, quite honestly, it's absolutely unbelievably corrupt. Now, what happened with this field adjacent to where I live, developers over the years tried to get permission to build on it, and there was massive opposition to it. So what happened recently, when the government lowered all the regulations and made it easy, now, did you know that councillors can now legally moonlight and work for developers? And the planning department, planners can actually moonlight legally and give advice to developers on how to develop land. So, and that used to be illegal. They weren't allowed to do it, but they are allowed to do it now. Now, I've been to, in my profession, I've been to many planning meetings, and also in a domestic situation, I've been to planning meetings. And when I saw there was plans put in to develop this field adjacent to where I live, and they wanted to put 62 houses on there, and they're stacker blocks, crap houses. And there was, a couple of years ago, massive objection to it. But what happened is the developer this time, and I'm going back to 2017, got in a professional liar, and that is public relations experts. So what they did, they went round and started a rumour that it's pointless objecting to these 62 houses because it's going ahead anyway. So the people that objected to it initially didn't bother because I thought they'd be wasting their time. And then when it was time for public, what's that called, consultation, where the council send out information about outline planning to build these houses, well, I won't call them houses, shitto blocks as I call them. People, very few objections went in. Now, I wrote a 25-page report showing that it was not necessary, and clearly I did it humorously. And what happened is I got a phone call. Now, how the local paper found my telephone number, I don't know, because when I had a landline, I was ex-directory, so God knows how they found it. And I think they found it through the local council, because the local council had my phone number. But anyway, that's beside the point. A reporter phoned me and he said he couldn't stop laughing because what I did, I got truth over in a humorous way. Now, if you want to see this report, if you go on to my website, where are we? And there it is, FockhamHallRadio.com, and I'll show you where it is. It's actually it's, hang on, I'll be there in a minute. I'm getting there, don't worry. Please bear with me. Here it is. Voila. Right, if you go on there, that's my website, and you see that arrow there, and press that area there, you can actually read the report. So, and I'll show you, it does cure insomniacs. No, I'm joking. But, so that's it, Fockham Hall Radio. Right, hang on, how do I take this thing off? Oh, here it is, right. If you go onto there, you can read that report, and I hope you have a good laugh, because I was rude to the council, because I said the council is noted for the amount of closet violinists in it, and why can't, and this is amongst the councillors, why can't they give a performance in the council offices so the public can see them all openly on the fiddle? So I mean, there's nothing rude in that, and that type of thing. But anyway, on with the story. What happened is I went to this planning meeting where the public are allowed into, and the public are not allowed to speak. You have to do it through a councillor. But all the councillors, I believe, allegedly, have been, I think there's a few greased palms involved in it. There's a whitewash. The attitude was that it was going ahead anyway, regardless, and this was just a formality they had to put up with. And people in the audience, some women, stood up and shouted, "Why can't we speak? Sit down. If you stand up again, you'll be ordered out. Okay, so you've got to do it through the councillor. You've got to do it through the chair and all that." And when you saw these councillors, and this is where a hierarchical system, which I'm totally against any hierarchy system, it doesn't work. Well, it does work for them, but it doesn't work for other people, because these councillors have got a childish minds. You're the chair. You got to speak to the chair. You got to do this. Oh, I'll second that, and I do this. I think, aren't they embarrassed? And they're very, very simplistic. Anyway, it was just a complete, well, it's a joke, it was. And afterwards, I went into the lobby, went to the loo. When I came out, there's bloody councillors patting the developers on the back and walking down the road, presumably going to the pub to celebrate. So they're all in on it. Absolutely unbelievable. So, and the way they got planning permission was the PR organisation. They not only set up rumours, but they sent in loads and loads of fake letters praising the development to the hilt. So I wrote a complaint in to the local council telling them what had happened, and they just fobbed me off. They said, "We can see nothing out of the ordinary. People are allowed to give their point of view." That was their, I said, they're fake. And that's exactly what they did. And they sent in batches of them, at about 40 at a time, saying how marvellous it is, and and you could tell it was written by the PR people. It was, to me, that again was propaganda, lies, professional liars. And what's happened? They got permission. There was hardly a whimper from anybody round where I live, whereas 3 or 4 years prior to 2017, bloody hell, they had to call the police in because there was a demonstration about the possibility of building houses outside the council offices. This time, I was one of only, I think, 3 or 4 people that objected to it. So it was, again, that's where professional liars come in. And I've actually had further experience of these so-called PR. And I'm not mentioning any names here. I'm not saying all PR firms are like this. I've got to say that, even though I don't believe it, because I think they are. But I've got to say it anyway, because I had a situation in the 80s where there was a development about to go ahead in, shall we say, the Midlands. I'll be very vague about it, and I've been deliberately vague. I haven't mentioned any locations at all, because again, I don't want to get into trouble. So I haven't mentioned any names or locations. But in the Midlands, let's get away there. I was asked up to this area, which was an area of outstanding natural beauty. It was a meadows, and it had been there for umpteen years, and there was wildlife conservation groups there, and the thought of actually building on this meadow would have been well, it'd just been unthinkable. And through the years, some developers have tried to put in outline planning, because there's outline planning and then there's building regulations, which is something completely different. Well, it's once you've got outline planning, then you put in for what is called building regulations to see the nitty gritty of the buildings. I won't go any further deeper into that. But I was asked up there, and there was a developer wanted to put in a development for housing, and of course it was rejected. But then there was someone put in for planning permission for the development of one of the most hideous industrial areas ever. Now, when I went on, because somebody said, look, there's something fishy here, Chris. I want a second opinion. Can you come and have a look, you see? So I went up there, and what happened is I looked at the plans of what was being proposed. Now, with outline planning, it's not too much detail, it just shows you. And it looked as if it had been drawn up by the office junior on a wet Friday afternoon after they come back from the pub. It was just sort of quickly bodged together. And it was for one of the most hideous industrial areas ever. And they was going to have a processing unit. I think it was cement or something. I can't remember the full details. So there'll be a continuous hum all day, which would drive people up the wall. And it looked over the top horrible. And then suddenly from nowhere, some advisors came along to help the local, inverted commas, community. And then what happened is the developer became very charitable and helped the wildlife conservation group. So they went a bit quiet. And then what happened, they had a public consultation, at a public meeting. And I went to this public meeting, and it was because you had these helpers who were part of a PR firm walking around with little badges on you. Peter, Pat, and they would have these big smile. Hello. They were basically perfumed farts. That's basically what they were. So, and it was so false. Well, a sick bag wouldn't have been big enough. You wanted to puke up in a bucket. Anyway, on with the story. So I went there, and they said, "Oh, we must stop this terrible industrial development. Oh, what are we going to do?" So somehow they managed to get into consultation with the local council. Now, if you or I wanted to do that, well, we could, but it wouldn't go very far. You'd probably speak to some bozo in the planning department, and it wouldn't go further than that. And it'd probably be the junior bloke of the planning department and say, "Yeah, all right, I'll give me the details of what you're got to say, and I'll give it a higher authority." And that's about as far as it can go, really. Anyway, these managed to go to hot, meetings, and then it came to the time when they was making the planning decision, and then this group that was helping the community came back and said, "What a relief! The council have backed down. They're not going to have this industrial area at all, and they're going to build much needed housing for the local community." And people bloody fell for it. And the people that could see through it, and this is like mass formation again, 30, 40, 30, 30% of people that could see through this PR smokescreen were actually sent to Coventry. They were demonized, and people wouldn't speak to them because 30% of the people believed these arseholes in the PR company, who didn't reveal they were from a PR company, but I knew they were because I did a bit of research. And 40% who go with the flow went with the 30%. So 70%, yeah, that's right, 70% were for it. So that's how they changed minds, and that's how they did it. And I've never forgotten that. And it happened again in a place in Hertfordshire where there was building on some water meadows. and the same thing happened. Some people came from nowhere. Remember the old saying, beware of strangers bearing gifts, who came to help the local community. And they had their little badges. I hasten to add, it was about 20 miles from where I live, so that might give you a clue. That'll be a bit vague again. They had their little badges, Pete, Derek, and Samantha, and all this sort of, and they're all tottering around, with their fake smiles and bullshit. And they did the same, and mass formation broke out again, and the people who could see through it were actually alienated. So that's what PR basically is all about: bullshit and giving people what they don't want. And now our entire society, right the way through, is run on it. So that's my bit for tonight. Now let's go back into chat, and we'll have a bit of a laugh. Now let's have a look. Paul Green, who buys these houses? Some near me have new cars on the drive. They don't move for weeks. Don't these people work? Yeah, I've noticed that. They've always got a flash. It's either an all Audi or a BMW, or maybe a Mercedes if it's a bit poorer. I mean, I've got a Mercedes. It's got called a smart car. But yeah, I've noticed that a lot. And if you go, once upon a time, I was at work, so, but if I had a day off or something like that, I went down the shopping centre, you'd never see any blokes around because they'd be at work. Now, there's loads of people of all ages, Now, what's this? Hatchy. Chris, do you remember the pub Sunday lunchtime, 12 to 2? Yeah, I do actually. Well, actually, those opening hours were implemented during the First World War, where it was illegal to buy your friend a drink. You could be fined for it. And they never changed the opening hours until recently. So, a little bit of ad hoc there. Hello, it's Aunt Sally. Hello, Aunt Sally. Good evening, folks. Was listening whilst driving. Really, we won't go into that. But I missed the beginning, so we'll catch up later. Oh, that's good. Because I mentioned the magic laughter word, William Shatner. So, what is it about his name that gives me the giggles? Now, it says Ancient Ruby. When they want to build anything, they manipulate it and make sure they do build it, irrelevant of what people think. I agree with you. It has always been like this with all you see and hear about. Well, that's right. I mean, the council where I live, they changed their name in 1975 because before 1975 it was Cheshunt Council, and most of the hierarchy went to jail because it was so corrupt. And so they changed it to Broxton, and in my view, allegedly, I think they just shifted back to where they were like before 1975, because I had never seen a planning meeting like it. I just came out. I was in a state of shock, actually. I'll be straight with you. I just couldn't believe it, that this country had slid. I mean, all right, there was a lot of corruption before, but at least they did it behind closed doors. Now it's sort of in your face, as if, oh yeah, we're bent, It's right. The people still think voting is choice of the people when it is not. They decide 10 years in advance. I agree with you. I mean, the only thing you can do with ballot paper is wipe your arse on it, really. That's about the only useful thing, because I believe it's rigged. Since I've had these postal ballots, I'm positive it's rigged. And, well, I'll never forget when Thatcher got in 1979, there was an old people's home where the manager, the post came into a central office, apparently. I read this in the newspaper. And the mail came into the central office, and then somebody delivered the mail. It was like almshouses or something like that to the different addresses. So the postman, when he went there, he just went to the main office, and they distributed it to the individual houses themselves, you see. And what happened? The manager, to save the elderly folk voting, he decided to vote for Margaret Thatcher for them. And somebody found this out. Somebody visiting their relative there found this out by accident. And the newspaper report went on. I wish I could find that report because I did save it, but it's probably in the loft somewhere. The report went on to say the police are not investigating because Margaret Thatcher would have got into power anyway, so the vote didn't really matter. Just, you know, but to me, people say, oh, you know, about, to me, I couldn't give a damn what Boris has got to say or Keir Starmer or anything like that because it's a pantomime. It's bullshit. It's because really, as I've said before, they don't rule the country or run the country. It's the people that operate the usury scam, who are the banking families, who it's illegal, who actually rule the country. Civil servants run the country, and governments are only there to steal money off of you and make it look as if they're benevolent, and give you little, you know, let's put it this way, everything they offer to you is crap. NHS, things like that, roads all falling to bits, anything like the Inland Revenue, the tax people, bloody hell, that's hyper efficient, that is. Cool, Christ, you make one mistake on your tax form, they're on you. So, you know, but imagine we switch that round, you know, the Inland Revenue said, I'm sorry, there's a waiting list to pay your taxes, 6 months to a year. And you may have to go wait a bit longer to pay your taxes. No, it wouldn't be. But no, seriously, to get rid of all this situation we're in, you've got to go for the head of the snake, and you've got to recognise who your enemy is. And the enemy are the money controllers, the usury scam. That's what it really is. On one of my videos, I did explain usury, but briefly, what it is if you say you borrowed money, say you're a country and you borrowed X amount of money. Let's have simple figures. We won't go into billions. You're right. We say it's £1 billion to build some roads and whatever. And you get this loan, and you go back and say to the person loaned it, here is £1 billion, and they say, no, it's £1.5 billion now. You say, why? Well, because it's compound interest. So you would then have to tax the people of your country to pay off that loan. Then when you go back, they say, no, it's 3 billion now because of compound interest. So you then tax the people even more, and then you pay back the 3 billion. They say, no, it's 3.5 billion now. And it just keeps inflating all the time. So you're enslaved by them. So if you're going to stop this situation, you got to cut off the head of the snake. And that's just basically, that's the way it's got to be done. But the trouble is, nobody knows who the enemy is. And to me, it's psychopaths. That's who the enemy is. We don't mention it out loud. Psychopaths. That's who, you know. It doesn't matter what religion they are, what race they are. Psychos are psychos. Full stop, end of. They're our enemy. Not all. Some don't harm humans. But it's the arseholes like, I won't mention any names. They're in power that are. Now, let's have a look. Oh, there's an interesting one here. Where have we got here? Smoggy G. Gandhi died in 1948. 1 plus 9. Oh, numerology. Plus 4 equals 8 equals 22. That's interesting. Yes. Now we got here Sean Hamer. No relation to John Hamer. A vote is a vow, a solemn promise, an allegiance, and people are dumber than we thought. Yes, well, you know, well, the other thing you see, if you didn't have government, people would be more responsible. People are irresponsible because they leave it to the government. And a perfect example, I went to a famous shop that we was talking about earlier, and I was sitting there, and it was on a Saturday when they had a market. And after the market, because I was talking to Miles, it was Abbey Health Food, there's bleeding shit and paper flying around all over the place. People have left it there because they said, well, we pay the council to clear that up. Well, if you paid somebody to clear it up and they didn't clear it up, you pay someone else to do it. And someone else would do it, and they'd be bloody thorough in doing it, because if they weren't, well, you get someone else. And I think, I mean, another example is down this area where, you know, where the health food shop is, there's loads and loads of cafes. It's very oldie worldy, and it's like an Essex version of the Shambles in York, but it's not. But, you know, it has jetties. Jetties are, shall we say, where the top floor is wider than the lower floor, and they did that to balance out loads on the upper floors. But that's an architectural thing. But anyway, and I was walking down the high road there, and there's all these cafes. Almost every other shop is a cafe, and there's this bloody great queue outside a cafe. I thought, blimey, they must be good. I think I'll go and I think I might investigate that place and have a cup of coffee there. Well, when I went to see Miles, I said, blimey, what's all the, is that a new cafe? He said, no, it's people, they get supermarket food, which is out of date, and there's no questions asked. And if you're poor, down and out, you go there and they get a free plate of food. And all right, there's a few people that shouldn't be there, but I thought, if the government run that, there'd have to be papers, you'd have to do this, do that, stick your finger in your ear and jump up and down and prove this, prove that. No, it's individuals getting off their arse and doing something themselves, and it works because everybody's getting a free meal and they've worked it out. And he said it's fantastic. They cook some incredible food there. So this is the thing. I really do think we can do without government and have minimal civil service that is just, you would know who they are, and they've got to be accountable, an accountable civil service. But again, what do you need government for? Because every society that hasn't had a government works. And people say, oh, it'd be chaos without a leader. No, that's what they've installed in our brains. And remember, who finances Hollywood and places like that? They've made us believe that it'd be chaos. I don't think it would. I think it'd be quite good, actually. And I think people would be a lot nicer to each other, a lot more pleasant to each other, and more helpful and loving. So, because again, I'm against hierarchy systems because they're childish and they're bloody awful. Now, I go to Stand in the Park in Cheshunt, and there's no hierarchy system. If it was, I'd bugger off. I'd go somewhere else. Just wouldn't. But nobody's in control as such. Everybody does what they think is right. I'm not the type of person to go on a demonstration. Doesn't suit me. Not my scene. But I will think of comedy things from behind the scenes and try and cheer people up, which I think is the greatest weapon against the powers that be, because the last thing the devil wants, and I'm mentioning that John, actually, thanks John from the Far East, he mentioned this and I never heard it before. He said, the devil hates being laughed at. So it's an interesting one. I've never heard that before. So that's not my statement. That's John from the Far East. And good luck, mate. Hope things are going well where you are, because he's making a stand. He's not having I won't go into it, you know what I mean. Anyway, let's go back into chat again. Putin has announced that he will invade Ukraine on Wednesday. Can he delay it a week? I was thinking of going on my holidays there. So I have totally disengaged from politics. Yep, same here. It is panto nonsense, as you say. Well, when you look at them, they look like they are mutants, because when you look at that soppy sodden Labour Party, you sort of, and I think they've got an underdeveloped brain, because I won't go in, I've said this time and time before, but there's people being born who before the Industrial Revolution wouldn't have been born, and a form of natural selection would have made sure they wouldn't have been born. So we've got people in power that have got fantastic memories, which gives them qualifications, but their brain cannot work out logic. And this is why things are in such a mess. You go to local councils, most of them are sort of, because they, not the staff, I'm talking about councillors and people like that, they can't function logic. Not all councillors, some are very good, but not all. Right. Galaxy, straight out of Zung Zet, I believe that is. That is The Art of War, isn't it? Zung Zet, am I right there? It's spelled YSU, but I think it's Zut, Zet, I think. And yes, he wrote The Art of War. When you are strong, make out you are weak. When you are weak, make out you are strong. Yes. And what's the other one? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Right. Now we got ancient ruby. Remove government, and we recover. For it is a few that create the storm. We are bigger than them. Well, that's right. That's right. Because really, we should be money is only there because it's more efficient than barter. That's really it. It's a means of exchange. That's all what money is. And I used to believe in this before I found out really what it was about. Where you have a minimum wage and all. Sorry, not minimum wage. A national wage. But then I realised that's social credits, and it's frightening social credits. It really is, because anything that's government involvement, it ties you down all the time. And I fear that in the not too distant future, and I hope I don't start a panic here, that the government will start getting their greasy, filthy, thieving paws into our banking accounts, because it's all so easy for them to do that, as they did in Cyprus a couple of years back, because they are criminals. That's their job. And that's why I've got no time for politicians. I mean, can you imagine if you've got a conscience, you can't be a politician? And also, you're just standing there all day in this childish place. Madam Speaker, Mr. This, Mr. Oh, give us a break. Give us. I mean, when I was actually down at the council meeting in the public area, watching these councillors acting like children, I felt embarrassed for them. Grow up, you soppy bastards. Let's address the chair. You've got to speak via the chair. What? It's a bleeding chair. What are you talking about? And thanks, Agent Ruby. Agree with you, Chris. There it says, Haji, toilet paper needed for voting. Put your wipe on it and throw it in the pan. They all drink at the same clubs and medicate our bottoms brains in the same way. That's right. You see them having a bleeding go at each other in the House of Con Men, and then afterwards, they're having a drink in the bar. I wonder how far I could go with this. There was one man that did away with usury, and I'm not in the 20th century. But you mustn't say anything about that man now, because he was looked on as a very, very naughty man. And it was the reason there was a big war about it, a second one. And that's all I've got to say, because I don't want to be banned from YouTube. But I think you can join the dots and work it out. Aunt Sally, what is the significance of 22 other than it is 2022? Well, I've got news for you, Aunt Sally. It's 1722. And you're thinking, he's bleeding bonkers, isn't he? 1722? Yes, because apparently the Dark Ages didn't exist. They made a mistake. And it's an error. But that's why in numerology, you only use the last two numbers, not the first two. Someone must have known something there. But yes, it's 1722, because what happened, they found this out. Stonemasons made these beautiful cathedrals, and their talents stopped, froze for 300 years, then started where they finished off. And they looked at it, and there's a Russian mathematician called Fomenko. And if you go onto YouTube and tap in Fomenko, it sounds like a dance, I know. It's unfortunately, I'm not sure if he speaks English or not, but it's all subtitled. So if you like reading, you sit there sort of going, what's this? But it's bloody interesting. And I think one of his, where it came from is in the 1970s when they had Space Lab or whatever, and they was trying to work out about the moon cycles and whatever, and NASA couldn't get it right. And he made a breakthrough, and in making a breakthrough, he found out that our history was wrong and carbon dating is a load of bullshit, because he reckons the pyramids were made or built, I think, in the 14th century. So, and they're not as old as we think. And he reckons the Earth isn't as old as we think. But he was Russia's, or the Soviet Union, as it was, top mathematicians. So look up flamenco on YouTube. I think you'll find it interesting. Now it says here, Smoggy G, founded in 1948, Hell's Angels in California. I won't say, but you understand the reason why. The state of and ABC News. What a year, Chris. I didn't know that, mate. That's bloody interesting, isn't it? Well. Wasn't the United Nations set up about that time, or was it 47? I have to look that up. I know it was I think it was, or was it 46? I don't know. I'm touching at straws here. 19th? I didn't know the Hells Angels in California was set up then. Well. And that's right. It was the state of you know where. Shall we say, the country we're not allowed to criticise. Now, it says here, Haji, I feel we are, and it will begin in 2027-28. Never give up, for that is what they want. Yeah, Ancient Ruby, that's it. Now, it says here, Elizabeth Clayton, that is lovely what that calf does. You've been in it, what, at at Cedars. Yeah, there's a lady there that does homemade cakes. And if you've got a bit of a sweet tooth, bloody hell, they're delicious. Oh, fantastic. And in fact, when I walk in that cafe, I don't have to say anything. They say, bacon sandwich, yes, brown bread, correct. I'm a boring fart, I know, real routinist. Now it says here, Ancient Ruby, we have worse to come, yet with their fear propaganda. That's right. Well, can you think of any time when we've been without fear? I mean, when I was a kid, we were shit scared about the Cold War, that we're going to be griddled alive in a nuclear war. What's happened to that? And I'll never forget, there was the Times newspaper with a supplement saying, dress rehearsal for the nuclear war. You know, how you're going to survive underneath a flight of stairs, living on beans with the entire family. And that would be fun, wouldn't it? You know, and then you put people in rubbish bags and put them outside if they croak it. What a lovely experience. And then we had HIV and AIDS to worry about, and all these different and then we had terrorists and all things like that, and now we've got HIV back again. The old ones, they're running out of ideas out to keep you shit scared, you know. And now this is an interesting one. Robert Dorr, hello Robert. James May of Top Gear fame opened that if we remove traffic lights, there be less accidents. Yes, I'll tell you something about that. You're spot on. Mike Dickin, do you remember him? My health, what is it now? My health is not of concern or something like that. Because people used to say, hello, Mike, how are you today? And but unfortunately, he died suspiciously. And he reckons that it was buses that caused all the problems. And was it buses are like movable public conveniences, because I always smell of piss inside them. Well, I hate public transport. I loathe it. I could actually, my neighbour said the other day, cheeky sod, you could go by a cab everywhere and it save you money with your cars. I love driving. Well, I used to, but no, I would rather walk than go by public transport. I don't want to sit on a seat that's warmed by somebody else, and they may have nasty things like rashes and fleas and again, I find public transport always does smell of stale piss, doesn't it? You know. Anyway, I was going to tell you about these traffic lights. So hello, Robert. It's now less accidents. That's correct. There was a policeman that used to live. He moved away. He used to live opposite where I live, and he was on the Palace Guard. He did all. And what happened is he said that before Ken Livingstone introduced this congestion charge, there's a load of blokes working on the traffic lights outside the palace, you see. And one of the coppers went over because they're quite inquisitive, because I suppose they're bored shitless, nothing else to do, and asked the blokes, you know, what was going on. And he said, oh, we were adjusting the traffic lights to cause chaos, which it did. And he said, we're just rearranging them back because tomorrow the parking charge comes in so that the traffic runs freely. And that's what they were doing. They altered the traffic lights around London to cause chaos, to prove the case that they need a congestion charge. And then when the congestion charge was implemented, they tweaked the traffic lights back again so that cars run smoothly. So again, propaganda, lies, yet again. And of course, look at this other congestion charge they sneaked in, where they what they've done is if you go past the North Circular Road inwards, I don't know really if you want to, you've got to pay some bleeding load of money to go over the North Circular Road. Well, luckily I never go down there, so I don't really have to pay it. But there's rumour that they're going to bring it out to the M25, so that'd be a barrel full of laughs, wouldn't it? So it's all money. Remember what I was saying? Government's job is to rob you to pay the usury scammers. That's what their job is. So they find all these ways of not only robbing you, but also controlling you as well, because you can't travel anywhere unless you do this, do that, and whatever. But I was going to tell you about this policeman that lived opposite. There's a funny story, this, you see. Now, what happened is a policeman never off duty. And when he first moved in, I used to have a hedge outside my house before I put the fancy fence there. And I was cutting the hedge one day, and it was a nice sunny day. And I lived in a cul-de-sac, and this bloody great dog I'd never seen before came pounding down the cul-de-sac, went onto his lawn, did a great pile of shit, and ran off. So I'm sort of... Anyway, a couple of minutes later, he comes out, shovels the shit up, comes over to me, and I can't remember the exact wording, but he said, I'm sure you know who is responsible for this. As if I'd gone over there, dropped my trolleys and had a shit on his lawn. He made me feel instantly guilty, even though I just innocently cut in my hedge. So I stood there, I said, oh, no. So he said, but you were here. Anyway, went round a corner, shoveled the shit into the ditch round the corner from down round the lane. Came back again, and I can understand how people confess to things when they're innocent, because he actually made me feel as if he knew that I'd shit on his lawn. I've never forgotten that. In a way, he said it. I'm sure you know who's responsible for this. You know, you know. Right. Got to say, I've got to go on again because I am taxi mum tonight. We'll be listening whilst driving again. Oh, that's nice. Well, I'm going to close soon. And what we got here? You do cheer me up, Cress, in this messed up delusional world. Laughter and coming together strengthen us. So thank you for what you do. Oh, and that's very kind. Thanks, Ancient Ruby. And again, thanks to John in the Far East who mentioned that about the devil does not like being laughed at. And look at the government. They don't like being laughed at. I mean, look at Ceausescu. Ceausescu, people stood in the square and he stood there and people are pissing themselves laughing. And he actually banned comedians from speaking because they were taking the mickey out of him. So what they did is a mime act to get around it. And it was even more hysterical because there's always a way around these things. So now let's have a look here. Got any more intro? Oh, we got a lot here tonight. Hadji. I left school in 79. That's a lot. That's an old age to leave school at the age of 79, isn't it? I'm sorry, in the year 1979. As far as I'm concerned, it's all been a crock of poo. I thought he was going to say shit. My mother dropped me in it when she registered me at birth. I do forgive her. Well, that's funny you should say that. And this is a true story. Shouldn't say it. My mum told me this. I was there, but I don't remember it. When I was born, I was well overdue, apparently. I didn't want to come out, really. And it was, and she had a bit of a traumatic birth with me. And when she sort of gave the final push, she accidentally shit herself. I came sliding out straight into a pile of shit. Perhaps that's why I like shit jokes now. Fart jokes. That's true, yeah. Now, it's got here, it's Robert Dorr. Ancient Ruby makes a great point. Fear keeps you off balance. This is why it was Goebbels' favourite weapon. Yes, put people in fear. Now, it says here, this is Galaxian, charging tourists from England to visit Wales soon, I hear. Oh, bloody Nora. Mind you, who wants to go in Wales anyway? Charging tourists from England. I know that when this situation, I'll get muddled up with the years now. Must have been the year before last when it's at its height. They're actually stopping people going into Wales and stop people coming out to Wales. I mean, if you're local, you know the side roads, so you can get in and out. It's just, well, actually, I did hear that the government are thinking of doing away with car tax and petrol tax and having everyone, of course, it costs to yourself, to have black boxes put in their car so that the government know exactly where you are, how fast you're going, and so they can send you comments about your driving. Yes, and fine the shit out of you if you go half a mile an hour over the speed limit, or take the corner a bit fast, or fart at the wrong time, or whatever. It's going to be living hell. It's communism. That's basically it. And what's this? Turdo, this is Sean Hamer, just invoked the Emergency Measure Act in Ottawa. Did he really? Oh, I shouldn't have really worked that out, actually. Well, done it now. And now it says here, Drake food, the androgynous. Is it really? I didn't know that. This is Ancient Ruby. They can stick the boxes up there. You know what? It's all smart tech to watch you. That's right. And what about when it goes tits up? When it goes wrong? But, I'm finding this all the time. I mean, I love driving. Well, I used to love driving, but now it's sometimes a bit of a chore because you got to keep your eyes up your arse most of the time because you speed. I mean, I'm not a speed merchant, but speed cameras looking at you and, all this. Big Brother is watching you everywhere. And that's why in the summer, I like cycling because, Big Brother isn't breathing down your neck like it is when you're in a car. But I'm only a fair weather cyclist, so, I don't go out when it's cold. And I assure you, I don't wear all that, what they call it, Lurex or something, or some bleeding stuff, I don't know. But no, I don't wear that. It's jeans and t-shirt. And I think I told you about what happened with a bike, did I? Yeah, I've never spent more than 10 quid for a bike. Bleeding old Rex. But my neighbour gave me, I did a job for him, and he gave me his sports bike because he didn't really want it. And he got on it, but smooth, went round the corner, a lady round the corner, went, hello, and I went, hello, and fell over to it off of it. So anyway, now it's Ancient Ruby. They only want you driving electric cars, so when they pull the hydro plug, no one gets out. More control. Yeah. And also, they're full of electromagnetic smog, which is very dangerous to your health. Plus, they rely on lithium mines, which are about as eco-friendly as, well, they're not eco-friendly at all. And all this eco crap, I don't believe. Most of it's a load of old crap. And really, Britain in the 1980s had 400 years worth of coal underneath it. And our coal industry was the most advanced, where they had robots getting coal out. So if there was a cave in, it wouldn't really matter very much because human life wouldn't be put at risk. It was robots. So you just sod it and just build another one. Drill another hole. And I'm probably being a bit simplistic there if anybody's an ex-coal miner, but you know what I mean. And our coal-fired power stations had scrubbers in them and poor women. No, No, seriously, they had electronic scrubbers, and they were getting cleaner and cleaner and more efficient. And we had one of the most advanced coal productions in the world, and we were most advanced with coal-fired power stations, and all that technology has just been gone now. And we could have been self-supporting in energy with ease now, and electricity would have been so bloody cheap, it'd have been cheap as chips. Even chips are not cheap now. But that all went due to traitors in government, and that's all we've had, I think, is traitors, because they're not there for you, they're not there for the country, they're for the people in control. Anyway, sorry if I've missed any of your comments in the chat room. Please don't take it seriously. And oh, hello, we got our Russian whatever it is turning up again. I won't read it out, I won't put it on the screen, but there's a load of stuff written in Russian for some unknown reason, but I don't know. Oh well, I suppose it keeps him busy. And what's this that says that these electric cars are so quiet that we'll start having more accidents pretty soon. I wonder how this will affect premiums. Yeah, you're right there. In fact, I was in home-based car park last year, and I was walking along. I've had this sense that there's something coming up behind me. Look around, there's a bloody electric car. It's so silent. Ancient Ruby, it is all a lie to whatever they say, and it is all info will be the opposite. Monsters, all of them. Yeah, just reverse everything they say, and you'll be correct more times than you're incorrect. So just reverse everything. And on that note, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's very much appreciated. Almost up to 2 hours. Now, if you're watching this on BitChute, I've got a BitChute channel, which is advertised below here. And I used to be able to load it on the BitChute channel immediately, but unfortunately, YouTube require several hours. So I can't actually load it up until sometime tomorrow, which will be Tuesday. That's, of course, if it's not banned. So if anything ever happens, please go over to my BitChute channel, which again, you can either look down here or look at the comments below, or you look at fockhamhallradio.com, which will direct you to it. And next week we hope to have Survivalist Dave on, so that'll be good. And we really are fully booked now, and John will be back, of course. He's actually been abducted by aliens tonight, so he couldn't really come on. He's all right, don't worry, he's perfectly okay. And Deb, she's I think she's in Gateshead. When she said she's going to Gateshead, I said, have you had a history, mentally honest? But I shouldn't say that. There's probably someone from Gateshead saying, bloody cheek, sod that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody in chat. It's much appreciated. It's a bit difficult. I started off doing shows on my own, and it's only in the last 18 months, 2 years, that I've actually had guests on. And it's a bit difficult when you plunge back into doing it on your own again. But I wanted to try it tonight to see, if I'm still in practice with it. But made a few goofs, but, well, that's life. And remember, please put the thumbs up, like this, and subscribe, which is free of charge. And, of course, check out my BitChute channel, because we do have naughty programs on there that we couldn't put on YouTube. And as I said last week, there's a very strong rumor that Trump has joined up with Rumble, that platform, and they will be in competition with YouTube. So I believe that's a strong rumor, and it should be launched. I was told at the end of January, but they put it off to the end of February. And if it's successful, I will obviously jump ship to there, because then I'll be able to speak freely and not have this ridiculous childish censorship that I have to watch every word that I say. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great week. See you same time, same place next week, and again same time. And whatever happens, have a laugh. Thank you very much, and good night.